Hey folks, driving to Guelph, Ontario today to visit Dixon's Distilled Spirits, Dixon's Distillery. We're gonna try their Trickle Down Rye and check it out, see what it's all about. And I'm pumped. First time taking the Whiskey Hunter into a distillery. Woo! Woo!
I'm the whiskey, the whiskey hunter.
There it is, folks. Dixon's Distilled Spirits. I'm in Guelph, Ontario. Gonna enter the distillery, bring in the Whiskey Hunter into a distillery for the first time, meet some people, talk about their Trickle Down Rye, and just kind of figure out what happens here at Dixon's. Look at the beard, folks, coming off here. All right, let's do it. Already see the barrels. Hey guys.
Hey man, how are you?
Chris from the Whiskey Hunter.
Chris,
We're here, and I'm not really looking, I'm more looking at the phone, but you can see the barrels behind me, and we're gonna check it out here, check out the distillery, talk to these folks, get informed about the Trickle Down Rye, and let's see where this takes us.
Yeah, so this is our operation here. So this is, everything is grain to glass here. We not only make whiskeys, we make vodka, we make a Caesar vodka. We make quite a bit of gin. We're actually probably the most known right now for all of our gins. We do a ton of contract stuff, so we make gins for other people too. This still would normally be running every single day, and today is actually its first day off in about 7 months. So today's the day it actually gets to take a break.
Okay.
So we're actually going to do a real deep clean on it today, and we're November and December for Dixon's is going to be solely whiskey. We're going to mash in and distill out whiskey for the next 2 months straight. So we're a little bit behind schedule
Awesome.
right now. But
Cool.
so the start of our process actually starts down at this tank down here. So this is what we call our mash tun. So this is where we put all of our ingredients. We have corn, we have rye, we add a content of water to that. We mix that around and we cook it. And what we're doing when we're cooking that, what we call a mash, is we're taking all the starch that's in that mash, we're pulling it out and we're exposing it. And as we're cooking, we're going to add some enzymes at certain points in the actual run. And what those enzymes are going to do is they're actually going to take that starch and they're going to convert that over to sugar. Okay. Because what we solely want to do after that is we want to ferment that mash out, and we're going to add yeast to that as we're fermenting, and that yeast is going to gobble up those sugars. That's what makes alcohol. That's a byproduct.
Cool.
So this here for us is about a 5-6 hour process. We can do about 2,000 liters at a time. So once that's done, we then pump over to, you can see right now we're a little bit stacked in here right now. So there's actually fermentation tanks in behind us here that we got to get pulled out for the next couple months. And what we're going to do is we're going to let that mash after we've cooked it, and it's got all that now sugar in it. We're going to pump it over to a fermenter, and we're going to add yeast to that. And that, like I say, that yeast is going to gobble up those sugars, converts that over to alcohol. That there is about anywhere from a 9 to 10 day process for us. So we can actually ferment it out pretty quick.
Okay.
And yeah, and then we're ready, essentially after that, we're ready for distillation. So fermentation is done. We then pump it over to this here. So this is the heart of the operation here. So this is our still. And like you say, it's getting a day off today. But we can do about 2,600 liters of fermented mash in this. And you can see the different columns that we have. So we have vodka columns. We actually have a dedicated gin column. We have a dedicated whiskey column. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that fermented mash. So now it's no longer sweet. If you taste that mash before it goes into the still, it's got a real sour taste to it, and you can actually taste the alcohol that's in it that we've created. So we're going to pump it into the still. We're going to seal it down. We're going to turn our steam on. That's how we heat in this distillery. Mm-hmm. And we're going to take that temperature of the still to about 178, 179 degrees. And what happens to that alcohol that's in the liquid form, it changes state at that temperature, and it turns into a gas or a vapor. Okay, and what it's going to do, it's going to travel up that copper onion. Okay, and it's going to travel all the way across. And depending on what we're making, I can deflect that vapor via all the different valves that we have up there. to wherever I want it to go. So we don't use all of these columns all at the same time. It's really dependent on what we're making. So if we're making gin, I'm going to deflect those vapors through this column here. If I'm making whiskey, it's going to go through this column here. And if I'm making vodka, it's going to go through these two columns here.
Right.
So we're going to pretend that we're making whiskey today.
Okay.
Whiskey hunter. So,
Cool.
So we mash goes in here, turn the still on, get that up to temperature, take that alcohol that's in liquid state, turn it into a vapor, travels up, travels across, and it's going to hit this valve up here. And I'm actually going to bypass the gin and the two vodka columns, but I'm going to use this column here. So this is our whiskey column. And what's going to happen is that vapor is actually going to travel down here, this line here. It's going to travel in here, and then it's going to travel up this column, okay? So what's inside here is what we call a distillation chamber, okay? And each one of these are segregated, and what's inside here is a flat plate. It's a copper plate as well.
Okay.
And on top of that plate, there's what we call copper bubble caps. And what happens is, like if this was running right now, you would see about 1.5 inches of liquid in each sight glass. It'd be boiling and frothing away. It's not water, it'd be alcohol. So when that vapor travels in, it hits the bottom side of that plate, and that plate has about 12 holes in it. And sitting on the top side of that plate is what we call a copper bubble cap.
Okay.
And it's essentially what it is. It's a cap that covers that hole, and it's got little cutouts on the bottom of the cap where liquid and vapor can escape. But when that vapor travels in, it travels up and it hits the bottom side of that plate, and it finds one of those 12 holes, and it travels up inside that hole into that copper bubble cap, which actually deflects that vapor back down on top of the plate that has liquid on it. So we're taking that vapor and we're pushing it into liquid. Well, that forces it back into a liquid state again.
Right.
Okay? It then sits on top of that plate, and it's going to boil and boil and boil. It's going to get hot enough again to turn back into a vapor. It travels up to the next plate, does the exact same thing. So that's one distillation. So that's the definition of it.
Okay.
Okay, so liquid, vapor, liquid. So we do it multiple times, and the reason for that is within this vapor that's traveling in here, there's different things. So in the industry, we call them low wines and high wines.
Okay.
So low wines are low quality, low percent alcohols, esters, congeners, fusel oil, some of the heavier alcohols. The high wines, the ethyl alcohol, you need to figure out a way to separate those, segregate those. And how you do that is via distillation. So every time you distill, you're stripping away low percent, low quality. You take high percent, high quality with you. So every time you distill, your alcohol percentage actually goes up. So you distill, you strip away low quality, low percent, it stays behind, but the high quality, high percent, the stuff you want to drink, continues through the process. So normally we start with a fermented mash that's in and around 10 to 12% alcohol. When I run it off the end of the still, it's probably going to be about, when I'm running whiskey, I run it about 80%.
Wow.
Yeah, so we raise it quite a bit.
And then from where do you get it from 80% down to it's 40%, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Cut.
So
That's later.
That's later, yeah.
Okay.
But you do that with water, and that's how every distillery on the
okay.
planet does it. You do it with good quality, clean water. It's got to be mineral free, so RO water, distilled water, something
Cool.
like that, right?
Cool.
So it's dependent on what you're doing with it too. So, I mean, if it's going straight to a bottle, then you just knock it right down to 40%. But if it's going to a barrel, you don't want to take that to bottle strength yet.
Right.
But you also don't want a barrel at 80% alcohol, because that alcohol will actually eat the barrel,
Right.
and you'll have an empty barrel in no time. So we actually barrel at about 65%. Industry standards about 70, but
Okay.
we always kind of like that. Well, let's make sure we're not eating the barrels. So
Right.
we do it at about 65%. The reason you don't take it to 40 is you don't want to age water. So you want to age as much spirit as
okay.
possible.
Okay, cool.
So then after your 3 or 5 years in a barrel, you'll then take that out, you'll reduce it down to 40, do a bunch of filtering to get all that barrel wash out, and you'll have
Awesome.
the whiskey.
Awesome. Woo! That's some science, folks.
Yeah. All right, now that you know how to make whiskey, the best part of the tour is right now. Let's try some.
Awesome. Woo! All right, folks, now to the fun part. We're going to review this beauty. This is the Trickle Down Rye, Dixon's 5-year-old whiskey, 40 ABV.
Yep.
And Chevy's still with me. He's going to kind of walk me through it. I'm going to do my tasting. He's going to kind of tell me what I'm doing wrong, and we're going to check this out. Let's go.
All righty. So this is Dixon's first whiskey, and we call it our rye. It's actually based off a bourbon recipe. So it's got corn and rye in it. I'm a big bourbon fan, and my business partner as well, JD, he's a huge bourbon fan as well too. So we kind of wanted to make our whiskey how we want to drink it.
Bourbon-esque.
Right? So we wanted to make sure that we enjoyed it the most out of anybody.
Right.
So just through trial and error, it took about probably 6 or 8 different mash bills before we really refined it, just kind of playing with the amount of corn, the amount of rye, the amount of enzymes that we were using.
Is that like computerized stuff, or is that just like you taking notes? Like,
It's funny, I
throw
actually
some more
have-
corn in there.
So this is actually pretty cool. I was going through the archives the other day, and I have this mash law 2015, and I'm looking up all the old mash books. So no, this is exactly how
cool.
we did it right here.
Cool. Wow.
So it was pretty cool to find this book actually. So we haven't really changed a whole lot. I think we've gotten a lot better at what we're doing. The first few mashes, it's again you start at home. So you start on the stove top, and you do a little 10-liter run, and you cook it and you ferment it, you distill it out, and that before you blow it up to a 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 liter recipe, that gets expensive when you screw it up.
Right.
So you always want to start small.
Okay.
So that's what we did with these little guys. So I think we're really happy with the way it turned out. Like I say, this is aged for 5 years, and most of the barrels here that are left that are still full, which is most of them, they're all now north of 5 years. So some of them, by the time we pull them, will probably be a 7 or 8 year old whiskey. So
Cool.
It should be really nice.
Cool.
All right, you can go first.
Okay. So I'm just going to do my tasting the way I normally do it at home in the basement, and Chevy's going to... Are you tasting with me?
Sure.
Should we let people know what time it is in the morning, or should we
No,
not?
let's
yeah.
not.
Okay. I mean, it's evening. So it's super light on the nose, and like you got me thinking about bourbon when you said bourbon, but it doesn't have any of the it's more pleasant on the nose than like a bourbon. Bourbons are pleasant to me, but it's very polite on the nose. It's very like
Some bourbons are very
nice.
strong.
Right. What? I'm thinking about stronger bourbons. Getting a little bit of caramel in there. Should I be getting some caramel?
Yeah, should be getting caramel. You should be getting a little bit of vanilla. Now, you keep in mind too that everybody's palate's different.
Right.
So very, very different. So normally what I get is I get a lot of caramel, I get a lot of vanilla, and you're essentially getting that from what they call the tannins in the wood. Is
Right.
what it is.
Right. Should there be a little bit of spice in there? I'm getting like a hint of spice.
Might be.
Yeah?
It'll be probably the rye. Again,
Okay.
it's a heavier rye content than most
Okay.
bourbons for sure. So that's probably where you're getting
Cool.
a bit of the spice.
Going in, check out the palate, folks. Oh wow, now I'm getting the caramel coming in. Oof. Very, like a lot of caramel. With a nice, like a nice spicy kick too. So as soon as someone says something about what you're, like, so right away I got
that
the
seed.
the tannins. I'm getting like a woodiness.
Yeah.
So I'm getting like the caramel, like the sweet, the spicy, some woodiness.
So our barrels are actually used bourbon barrels, and that's what we age in. So Four Roses bourbon, which is
Awesome.
it's a bigger bourbon in the States, but it's
Yep.
actually it's a nice bourbon. So we use used bourbon barrels for a few reasons. Cost is one of them, but also flavor. So
Okay.
because we are actually basing our
very nice.
whiskey off a bourbon, they said, well, let's use bourbon barrels.
Great. I'm gonna go one more and check the finish. So I'm getting like a medium long finish. Caramel's still there, but the spice you get like a extra kick of the spice at the end of it. I really like it. I mean, I love the sweet and spicy combination.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's easy, like very easy to drink. You could drink that just.
On the rocks, man.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
nice on the rocks.
On the rocks. Yeah.
I'll have to try that.
Drink it. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. First time, the Trickle Down Rye, 5-year-old Dixon's whiskey, and I dig it, folks. Chevy, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so I got a special treat for you today. Something that we've done here is we've started aging our already aged 5-year whiskey and used
This whiskey. Yep. Okay.
and used maple syrup barrels. So we sell a product here, and it's barrel-aged maple syrup. So we buy syrup from a local syrup farmer, and we give him our used barrels. We put that syrup in a barrel. We let it age for a year. We pull that syrup out. We bottle it, sell it. So we now have empty barrels, and about 4 months ago, I added our 5-year whiskey to those barrels. So today's the day we want to try it. We want to see if it's getting close to picking up those flavors of the maple syrup. So let's go try.
Woo!
Okay, so over here we have our 2 one-off barrels. So these are the used maple syrup barrel, and you can actually, if you kind of get a picture of this here, you can see all the sugar from the syrup that's left over from the barrel. So yeah, we've been aging this now for a few months, and we want to try it, and we want to make sure that it's ready, and we got a maple hint to it. So we're gonna pop the bung. If you would put your nose in there, that's probably the best smell on the planet.
Oh man, just jump in there.
It's good, right?
Oof.
Swim in there.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna pull a sample out here. My little homemade cheesy siphon.
Right out of the barrel, folks. Check this out.
I will join you.
Yikes. So this is the trickle down rye.
So this is a trickle down rye, aged in maple syrup barrels.
Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Check this out. Cheers, folks.
Oh, I can smell it.
Oh man, just like that, but
That's just about
better,
ready.
better version of that.
Yeah, that's kind of nice.
So when's this coming out?
We're hoping we'll let it soak probably for another month. It's by that flavor there, it's pretty well ready to go. So December 1st, we want to try and capture Christmas. So
Awesome.
we'll pull it out and we'll get it filtered. And
So we're like the first.
you were the first one. This is the first time that we've tried it, and this is actually the first time that we've used our used syrup barrels for any of our products.
And then this become like a yearly thing, like a Christmas
I would think
thing?
so. Yeah, I would think so for sure.
Cool.
We might try some different stuff in here too. Maybe a moonshine. We do a really cool product, and it's actually, you can see it up on the wall there. It's called Oat Shine. So it's a
Okay.
moonshine made from oat. We haven't sold it in about a year because we ran out, so we're kind of just waiting to mash it back in. But that might be something cool to do in here too. Is
Cool.
A sweet oat. So
Wicked. Woo! Thanks, Chevy.
no worries. Thank you.
All right, folks. Chevy, thanks for having me, man. What a cool experience to see this stuff. You know, like see it, sample it, like right here in the spot where it's made. Dixon's Distilled Spirits. You got to check these folks out, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for stopping in. It was good luck, and drink Dixon's.